I just received a full briefing from our emergency response teams, including FEMA. Obviously, everybody is aware at this point that this is going to be a big and powerful storm.
More than 2 million people have been evacuated along the East Coast. An estimated 26 million people will be affected by it today and in the coming days.
We are announcing that we are going to close the Holland Tunnel and the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel.
Common sense says you should start taking precautions. Get ready just in case.
This is a record surge of water that we're witnessing right now.
60 million Americans will feel its power.
Do not underestimate this storm.
Creeks, now raging rivers.
Take a look at the flooding situation over here.
All of a sudden, they had white caps going through the yard.
Sustained winds here are easily over 30 miles an hour.
Hurricane Irene has unleashed itself on the east coast of America.
But our town is devastated. We've all lost our houses.
A fire has destroyed at least 50 homes.
The Battery Tunnel in Lower Manhattan, this gets you out of the city. The tunnel is totally flooded. It was beyond anything I'd ever seen, and certainly beyond anything I'd ever imagined.
I really didn't know how this community was going to build back up.
This was my place of refuge. Where am I going to go from here?
Never in the history of this state had we seen destruction like this.
These communities not only need to be rebuilt as we believe they should be rebuilt, they need to be restored in terms of spirit and ethic. So we're going to say to the communities themselves, if you come together, we will fund your vision of what this community needs to be restored.
The New York Rising Community Reconstruction Program is a new tool created by the State of New York for long-term storm recovery. Each New York Rising Community Reconstruction Plan will be a bottom-up rebuilding plan using federal and state funds. 102 communities throughout the state damaged by Hurricane Irene, Tropical Storm Lee, Superstorm Sandy, and the recent flooding in the Mohawk Valley are being designated New York Rising communities. New York Rising communities will be eligible for extensive state and federal support, including $500 million in Community Development Block Grant funds, $250 million in Hazard Mitigation Grant Program funds, priority consideration and expedited approvals for state programs, private investment leveraged by the Department of Financial Services. While the state and federal governments provide funding and technical assistance, the communities do the planning. They know their own needs best. Communities will complete their plans in 8 months or less. Communities will submit their plans by next April, and awards will be made beginning in the spring. Communities will receive bonus awards for successful outcomes such as regional cooperation, partnerships between local government and the private sector, and community participation in the planning process.
The grassroots effort in this area has been amazing. Difficult situations reveal character, they don't make character. We've seen evidence of that in our situation. People have stepped up into leadership that never thought they could. That's the kind of character that people here have, that strength, that determination, that faith and hope in the future, and that ability to bounce back from adversity. The CRZ program is offering communities a chance to do their own planning with some collaboration with the state, with local resources, because the local people know what those resources are and how to best help.
It was devastating to me to see all types of electricity out, people walking around without water. After the storm, staff members went door to door, not only to find out what the needs, but to deliver information about FEMA, about other distribution points for food, water, clothing, and to guide them along how they can alleviate or at least find ways where they can get information, where they can make an educated decision on what they could do with their homes now that they've been damaged.
When I witnessed the destruction for the first time, I had come back to the store in the morning, and when I walked in and saw about 3 feet of sand and everything devastated, I knew my life just changed. What really kept me going was looking around at my neighbors, fellow business owners. Seeing them pushing to move forward gave me even more strength to keep going forward, and I knew that I was going to rebuild, and I knew there was going to be some good to come out of this.
In the late 19th century, New York was a booming city. That led to many great things, but it also meant the city was prone to disasters of a kind that had never happened before. In December of 1835, New York had one of the worst catastrophes of its history, a fire, the Great Fire of 1835, which did unimaginable damage. So the big solution, the big innovation, was this waterworks system, the first way in which the city grid had been underlaid with a whole second network, invisible to the eye, but there at all times, taking the form of a hydrant on every corner. In March of 1888, just when the winter was almost over, there was this immense blizzard, and it covered the entire city in snow for 3 days, and telegraph communication had been disrupted. So a very simple but powerful and expensive expedient was decided on: bury the telegraph lines. And that was an immense new precedent in the city because it was difficult to do and expensive, but it was decided to be done.
In 1921, San Antonio had a 100-year flood. It took out 1,000 acres of the city. It was a truly devastating flood for a community that size. Because the river goes through the center of downtown, it's always been this idea of making it into a park. The idea was Venice, to open businesses up along the river, and that plan became the Riverwalk that you see today.
After the earthquake in 1989, San Francisco was really faced with major parts of the Embarcadero Freeway was in a sort of pile of rubble. Rather than rebuilding the freeway as it was, they decided to reconnect the city with the waterfront. And it really generated this amazing new waterfront space for the city. So it was a great example of how the economics can completely change in a way for the better. Well, Tulsa, Oklahoma is a great example of a mid-sized city that has dealt comprehensively with water management and river flooding issues. In the 60s and 70s in Tulsa, they experienced repeated flooding every 2 to 4 years. And this resulted in a great coalition between the community and the local government. Community members helped design the mapping process and were very integral in the conceptualization of the Greenway itself. And so today, this network of greenways along the Arkansas River and its tributaries are among the region's greatest assets.
Sure, we had one of these disasters after another, but in every case, the very fact of responding to the disaster moved the evolution of New York, and with it all cities, forward.
And one of the things that you realize about the character of New Yorkers is that they reach out and help each other.
I just want to thank this guy. It's very emotional to be through everything that we've been through, and to have somebody at your back like this guy here.
I'm very proud to be a New Yorker because we don't let anything destroy us. We'll constantly push forward, we'll overcome. New Yorkers are the best.
I think as we look to the future, there's not only the hope to rebuild, but to create something even better.
We come back, and we come back even stronger. We work together, we work as a team, we work coordinated. And the challenge here for us is not just to build back, but to build back better.